Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
In the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back to the AP Strange Show, and we are having another third time's the charm episode, and this one is third time's the charm. This is where I invite someone on to discuss the third movie in a franchise, so the second sequel to a film, or just a third in a series of movies. It can get kind of nebulous at times, but we're doing this for science. For science, I say. And before I introduce our guest and our movie for this episode, I gotta do a spot from our imaginary sponsor. Our imaginary sponsor this week is Shower Bees, a new experience in hygiene and horror. Thrill as people go to take a shower and find out it's not water, but bees! Coming to an imaginary theater near you. Shower Bees. Okay, so our movie tonight is RoboCop 3, and the man I subjected to this movie and franchise is none other than Blackwolf John Oates, who you may see on the interwebs sometimes on Twitter, posting collectible hair metal rock trading cards and talking about them and the bands. He's a good friend of mine, into all the weird stuff, weird shit, if you will. And I'm happy to have him on the show to discuss the masterpiece that is RoboCop and its regrettable sequels. How you doing, Black Wolf?
I'm doing good. Actually, I'm a little horrified at the moment because your little shower bees thing brought back a painful memory. Anyone who's lived in the South knows what a palmetto bug is. It is a large flying roach. It just reminded me of one day when I was a child taking a shower, and as I was lathering up my hair, I felt something in it and pulled my hand back, and there was a giant palmetto bug in my hand, and it kind of scarred me for life as far as insects in showers kind of thing. So I thank you so much for opening this up with a terrifying memory. I appreciate it.
Well, at least it wasn't bees.
It wasn't bees, but I think anyone who lives in the deep South can tell you the sound of a palmetto bug's wings in your darkened bedroom at 3 a.m. is one of the more horrifying sounds you can imagine.
You did the real yeoman's work here. You went above and beyond and watched all three movies in the franchise.
Yes.
And I understand this is your first viewing of the third installment.
Yes, I had not seen RoboCop 3 yet. I am intimately familiar with the first one. The first one is probably on my short list of favorite movies of all time. I absolutely adore RoboCop, and it's been one of those movies that's been with me my entire life. Like, I watched it when I was a kid because there was robots and guns, and it's one of those movies that grew with me as I got older. As you age, the layers of the onion become more clear to you, and by the time you're like 25, you just think it's just a piece of genius science fiction, and it's right, and it's a fantastic film. I could gush about it for hours. Watching it again last night, because I figured I should probably cleanse my palate and come into this with full knowledge of all three films. It doesn't even lose it. I've seen it probably 50 times easily in my life, and it hasn't lost a bit. It's still as wonderful as it was the first time.
Yeah, because the first one had a point to it, and this is kind of what I was thinking is Paul Verhoeven wasn't really involved with either of the sequels, I don't think.
No, I think I did some cursory Wikipedia looks, and he apparently was, I think, offered the sequel, and was just I don't think he's a very sequely kind of guy. You know, he's just
Right.
doesn't seem to be like, no, I said what I needed to say. We're good. And
Yeah.
you know, and he by that point I think moved on to Total Recall, and you know, another fantastic science fiction film. So you know, he was already on to the next thing, and I don't think he had much interest in revisiting the RoboCop story.
Right, right. And as you say, like it's something you can watch in as like a preteen or a kid or a teenager and think of as just robots and guns. Like we
Yeah.
got a cyborg, we got guns, we got bad guys getting shot. Um, and I think Verhoeven has a knack for very faithfully presenting that kind of trash, fun stupidity in cinema,
Yes.
but as like a mask for actually pretty good sci-fi
Oh,
in the sense of speculative fiction and satire, you
oh,
know?
I mean, I think like the three movies that he's probably most known for, you know, at least for me at least, and my friends and I, although most of my friends and I are all pretty big Verhoeven fans, at least his American films. I'm not very familiar with his European work, but I like RoboCop, Total Recall, which, you know, based on a Philip Dick story. It's
Right.
fantastic. Arnold Schwarzenegger shoots a lot of things, but there's always more. And then you have Starship Troopers, which is the other one that's rather controversial because you either absolutely love Starship Troopers or you despise Starship Troopers. There's no middle ground in Starship Troopers. You either hate it or love it. And
Yeah,
you know, and
I
but
love
he has.
Starship Troopers.
Oh, I absolutely adore Starship Troopers. But you know, the thing with Starship Troopers is too, like you have to, the flaws in it are so evident, and you almost have to wonder if the flaws in Starship Troopers are intentional. Like, are these actors supposed to be bad? Because they're terrible. There's just dreadful actors all over Starship Troopers. I mean, it's the kind of
I
movie you can.
always
Oh, go
I
ahead.
always assumed they were.
Yeah,
Like I thought that because there's so much of that movie is based around propaganda.
yeah.
So it's almost like all the players in it are in their own little propaganda films that are poorly made, you
Oh,
know? So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I
so I
think
think the
every bit of it.
overacting and
Yeah,
bad acting is part of that. Yeah.
I don't think as much that Verhoeven does that's not intentional. I mean, and you know, it's one of those movies too. You can watch it, and enjoy it on every level, and you can go see the riff tracks for it and laugh your ass off at it. You know, it's a
Yeah.
wonderful movie in every way. And so yeah, Verhoeven has that skill to take utter trash and turn it and but give it so many layers. And even sometimes the layers are blaringly obvious, but sometimes they're a little more subtle. But you know, I don't think Verhoeven works in subtlety very much, though. I think he's very much I'm going to smack you across the face with the frying pan of knowledge, and you.
Right. It's so heavy-handed and like in that way it kind of I don't know, flies under the radar
Yeah,
on
no, it
some
goes.
level
It's
as
so
being
heavy-handed.
clever.
You know, I mean, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so heavy-handed. Like, I'm sure we'll get into the religious imagery of the RoboCop series, but I mean, some of it is just like ridiculous. It's so great though. It's perfect. It's exactly what the movie needs. And but I guess moving on, we do. This could turn into the RoboCop podcast easily because we're supposed to be talking about the third one because the first one's just so damn good. We could talk about it all day.
Right.
Um, I the second one I saw in the theater. I was 10, I believe,
Yeah.
10 or 11. It was 89 or 90 when it came out, and my my wonderful mother took me. Such a patient woman. Took me to see so many films as a child that probably were torturous, and I had not seen it since then. The only thing I remembered about the second one was the kid
Right.
uh Hob, which I did not even know his name, Hob, the little junior gangster.
Right.
I forgot the rest of it entirely. I remembered Nuke, the
Yeah.
the designer wonder drug that comes in a cassette case. Nuke.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I mean, that was totally a late 80s, 90s thing is like imaginary drugs.
oh, I know. Oh, absolutely.
Like
Yeah,
fictional drugs.
yeah, no, and it did have we were my wonderful partner, my muse,
Yeah.
Kelly, and I were laughing hysterically at the kids just giving away free drugs in the arcade. Here, the first one's
Right.
free. It's like, man, that has never happened. Oh, that
Well,
is such.
it's like they do on Halloween, you know? Some people just throw drugs in the candy to
Yeah, of
give out
course.
to
I just want
kids.
to give away my good drugs. I spend good money on these drugs. Why don't you have some for free? That's such Nancy Reagan's America. You know, that just
Yeah.
say no crap. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I really had forgotten all of it, and to say RoboCop 2 was a chore is being kind. That
Right.
was easily one of the hardest movies I've ever had to watch in my life. We were absolutely gritting our teeth by like the hour and a half mark, and
It
there
was
was
way
still
too long.
it's 2 hours.
Right.
It's like an hour and 58 minutes. It's just a hair under 2 hours, and it feels every bit of it. And
Right.
we were dragging. We were having a hard time watching that movie, and by the end, we were just like gritting our teeth, like walking around the living room, like, come on, this has to end soon. Like,
Right.
I'm doing this for science. I have to finish this. Like I stopped taking notes like an hour in. I was like, I can't even pay attention to this. This is terrible.
Right.
Um,
Well, one thing I noticed about the second one, and this is also true of the third, is that Frank Miller was a writer or a
yeah,
writer.
yeah,
Um, and I know that name from comic books like Sin City
yeah.
and notable Batman titles.
You're
And
gonna
it
have to
kind of
take the
struck
lead
me.
on that because I may look like it or even sound like it or I am not a comic book person.
I know,
I
yeah, I
was
know
like
that
kind of
about
into
you.
Spider-Man when I was a kid. Like I liked Spider-Man and the X-Men, but once I heard like Led Zeppelin, comic books were over. And
Yeah,
so like yeah, so I know of Frank Miller. I've seen Sin City. I know he wrote some Batman comics, I believe. But like
yeah.
as far as like what he brought to the series, I'm a blank on that.
Well, here's the thing about Frank Miller is I think he was I'm not the big comic book historian, but from my own viewpoint, he seemed to be one of the ones that kind of informed how comics stories are told, where they became a lot darker and grittier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was kind of the king of, for a little while, the really dark, gritty Batman stories.
Was he the Dark
And
Knight guy? Did he do the
yeah,
Dark
I
Knight?
think
Okay.
so. I think he
Okay.
did the
If
Dark
that's it,
Knight
because I
series.
remember my comic book friends were really into the Dark Knight. That was like a really
Yeah.
big deal for them. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and the thing is, in the 90s, like you had that turn, and this is where like I'm, in my preteen years reading comic books and going from, bright colored Spider-Man comics or like
Yeah.
old Superman and old Batman comics. And all of a sudden it seemed like it got really dark, like there were
Yeah.
these dark, gritty stories that looked like, and in part because they were geared more towards adults, but it kind of ruined what superheroes were in a way. I mean, I think you see Alan Moore speaking out about this nowadays, where he was part of he was part of a time period where comic books lost their innocence in a way,
Yeah.
and became more um and he takes it as far as to say that adults are infantilized by clinging on to these superheroes and trying to make them an adult thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
No, I can definitely see that. I mean, I remember like some of the few comics I did buy that I remember being like there was the Wolverine series that started when I was like into comic books a little bit, and I remember it was mostly I bought like, oh cool, Wolverine, he's gonna be
yeah,
slashing people in half all the time. No, it's just him brooding, like wandering
yeah.
around, being really sad. He's always like walking in the rain in a trench coat,
Well,
like
that's what it is. What you ended up was a
yeah,
lot of angsty anti-heroes,
yeah.
or
The
yeah,
Punisher had kind of
right.
peaked at that
And
point too. I remember.
around that time, you also had the rise of alternative comics,
Yeah,
kind of congruent with that. So, like, I mean, Alan Moore had his own imprint at one point, I think, and then the Image comics and like Spawn, um, like a lot of more violent and dark and gritty comics.
well,
And so, I mean, that kind of that struck me watching 2 and 3 because Frank Miller being attached to it is almost like, oh, all right, so we're just now, because I mean, RoboCop 1 to me is not about Murphy. It's not about RoboCop per se. It's a piece that is showing you a world, a version of a dystopian world, right?
yeah.
Like the Detroit of RoboCop is the main character of RoboCop
Yeah, I can
in my
see
mind.
that. I do think but like, there is that very, very heavy-handed, but wonderful. It's heavy-handed in the Verhoeven way of like a man reclaiming his humanity. There's
Right.
that there. And
No, there is the
yeah, so
religious
like the
stuff too.
RoboCop is kind of like just like the like the like a beacon of hope kind of thing that
Right.
that New Detroit doesn't have to be like this OCP wasteland,
Right.
like this spit and polish kind of utopia that you can have the hardened shell of a major American city with a human inside of it, kind of thing. Or,
Right.
I'm talking out of my ass here, but you'll have to help me with the Frank Miller part of 2,
Well,
because I not remembering anything about it, and I was like, oh, Frank Miller, I know who he is. I know he's kind of responsible for the dark comic books of the 90s. And then we open up on this weird, very neon colored
mhm.
um old Detroit. Like, I was like remarking, like, it looks like, I don't know if you've ever played laser tag, but they have
Right.
like all like the neon graffiti on the walls and shit.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks like a laser tag arena. And
Yeah. And I mean, you
it
do see that in Batman films at the time too,
okay,
especially like
okay.
Batman Forever. It gets
That's
real
true. Yeah,
neon.
like the
Yeah.
yeah, that was the yeah, like the Clooney Batman, for sure. The Joel Schumacher,
Right.
nipples on the bat suit, Batman.
But
Yeah,
what I'm getting at with Miller is that we've taken the RoboCop from RoboCop 1 and turned him into a comic book character.
yeah,
So
because
that
there's
basically
like,
2
oh, go
feels
ahead.
like it was 2 RoboCop 2 feels like it was several comic series that storylines like that would have been strung out over several issues of a RoboCop comic,
Well,
and they're
that
just kind
was
of all stapled together in one
that was the
volume.
thing. That was my main problem with RoboCop 2, is that are probably, off the top of my head, this morning, I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plots in
Yeah,
RoboCop 2, none of which are resolved.
right.
I mean, I hear just the top of my head while drinking my coffee. There's a new collab with a baby in it. A crooked cop, OCP's foreclosure in Detroit, broken RoboCop 2, poorly dubbed evil woman. Where did the kid come from? RoboCop stalks family, then has counseling. RoboCop broken. Uh, who's the cops go on strike? Nuke.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
drug dealer attempts to buy the mayor. Like, that's just off the top of my head. I'm missing probably 10 things.
Right.
Like, nothing was completed.
Right.
And
Yeah. It
it
sounds like a bunch of different comics series storylines that were meant to just be episodic and serialized
yeah,
ad infinitum,
yeah,
and it doesn't work in a movie.
yeah. I mean, I think of, like, like Sin City, like, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but the first one especially it's a pretty cool movie. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a little overboard. And I get and Robert Rodriguez drives me insane, but like like the episodic nature of that, like there's 3 interlocking stories. That's what RoboCop 2 could have been, with
Mhm.
RoboCop being a thread that runs through them. But
Yeah.
they're just like throwing them at you. They're just chucking those damn things at you.
Right. So
And
I'm not blaming Frank Miller per se, because I think he does write cool stories, but and they are always over the top, but it's more just that this isn't the media to present that, I don't think. And it wasn't done well,
not at all.
direction wise. Um
And well, the directing is interesting too, because it was directed by Erwin Kershner, who his 2 biggest films up to that point was he directed Empire Strikes Back, which
uh-huh.
many consider the best Star Wars movie. It's a movie I grew up with. Don't have any particular Star Wars affinity, but the
Right.
first 3 are certainly a big part of my life, and I would say probably Empire is the best one. So he's not an incompetent director, and he also directed the weird one-off non Eon Productions James Bond, Never Say Never Again, with a balding
Oh,
Sean Connery, uh,
okay.
which I really enjoy.
All
It's a
right.
good movie. And then he did this, and then he didn't
Yeah.
direct a movie again. He never directed
Hmm.
again. So he has an odd career. He did a lot of acting and a lot of writing, but like, he's not incompetent. But I just don't know what the hell this movie is supposed to be.
Yeah,
And
but it really does just kind of seem like they missed the satire and
oh,
the dark
completely.
humor, and they forgot, they didn't know that that was supposed to be part of it, and just did the faithfully executed bad action sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And some
right,
weird
but
slapstick, like when RoboCop is hanging off of Kane's van and he hits that pole and he gives the bong sound with a gong
mhm,
sound.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay, there's a hefty dose of silliness in
right,
RoboCop 2. Um, but there's
yeah, but
also,
not
I thought
enough
there
to
was some
keep your interest.
no, I thought there was some decent stuff too. I did think Tom Noonan was really good.
Mhm.
as Kane. I think he's a really good actor. You know, we
Yeah.
might know him best as the Tooth Fairy in the original Manhunter.
Yeah.
A great movie. And he's just such an interesting presence. He's just this huge guy, and
Right.
he's got a very intense face. I think he did a really good job. And I think I know we want to get into the cast of all three of these movies because the casting I think is some of the best thing in these films is the cast. So
Right.
we can touch on that later. But there's some interesting stuff in the second one. It's just, man, what the hell? Like, it's such whiplash nature of just back and forth between all these different plots, none of which are resolved. And then all of a sudden it's like then it's over. And it was not
Right.
satisfying in the least bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough that um m- my wife, my muse, Pam, had never seen had never seen the first RoboCop uh
Oh,
a while back, and I was like, you know what? Like, I think you'd actually like it though. Like, there's like a trash element, but also like it's a good movie, and she
it's a
did.
smart movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
She thought it was great. So then she wasn't opposed to watching RoboCop 2, and after RoboCop 2, she straight refused to watch RoboCop 3 with me.
I can't
So I
say I
had to
blame
do it.
her.
I had to do it while she was out
Can't say
because
I blame her.
the
If you
the the drop in quality and integrity to the second movie is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a it and it's and the thing is though, it's not even really trying. Like it abandons so much of the first movie almost
Right.
immediately.
Yeah.
Um and there's some interesting stuff in there too. Like the very beginning, like it starts off within like 10 minutes, RoboCop is stalking his family.
Right.
And it's like that could be an interesting idea. That's something there you could work with. You know, there were
Right.
pieces of that in the first one. And they're just this really good idea you can stretch out, and it's abandoned almost immediately. Like within
Well, see,
five
what I
minutes.
took from that was the evil gangster kid was actually his son. Is that not the case?
I don't think so. He has a
Oh,
thing,
okay.
like he has it in the third one too, where he sees kids and he becomes like protective of kids. You know, it
Right.
happens in the first one. I mean, it happens in the second and the third one.
It's just
Um,
his nurturing nature
but
that
I think, and I'll name drop my good friend Jason. We were talking about this last weekend. He was in town. We had some coffee. We were talking, and I mentioned that I was doing this, and I was going to have to watch RoboCop 2 and 3 this week to prepare for this. And he made the very salient point that 2 and 3 are for kids. They're meant for
yeah,
kids, and that changes everything. Like,
right. Well, yeah, when you watch him, the like we were saying about the first one, Guns and Robots, that's what we were there for all three as kids. And then as
yes,
adults, only really the first one holds up as a good
yeah, hold up
movie.
to any scrutiny whatsoever. And so, yeah,
Right.
when you realize that you had to make these for, I mean, I forgot because I remembered this as I was watching two that there was a hair metal tie-in to number two. The
Yeah.
band, the hair metal also ran Babylon AD. Had a song, "Kid Goes Wild." They had a
Ah,
video, much in the same way as the Terminator 2 video with "You Could Be Mine," where
yeah.
Terminator stalking Guns N' Roses determines Axel to be a waste of ammo. And there's this very similar video for their song with RoboCop walking through a club. And
Okay, I'm
uh,
gonna have to look that up. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
I might be misremembering parts of it. I don't think it's Peter Weller, but hell, who knows? A paycheck's a paycheck, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to fault Peter Weller for making RoboCop 2. I mean, yeah, he got to pay for his Renaissance art PhD some way. But
Yeah.
uh,
But I mean, I think that was really the main point I was getting to with Miller is that in comic books, it's like, of course, you have the guys that create characters, right? But as a workman in the industry, you're taking pre-existing characters and trying to do kind of your own thing with it, right? So you take a
yeah,
property like Batman. Batman's been around since the 40s, and he's gone through so many different permutations that if you take a property like Batman, you can write whatever story you want as
yeah,
long as you're faithful to the idea and the fans. Um, but like for to do that with RoboCop, it's like you have one movie versus like decades of
yeah.
material to draw from. I don't think it's time to go in a new direction with RoboCop yet.
Yeah, I know
You know,
it really did. I mean, RoboCop 2 just has the fingerprints and the stink of studio meddling from day one. Like, like I said, I peeked at the Wikipedia page for it just out of curiosity. It seems like it had a rather quick but troubled production. Like, it went through multiple writers and maybe a couple of directors, and and it was like, I mean, was it 89? I think RoboCop 2 came out. RoboCop 1 is 87. So this was 2 years. This probably wasn't even 2 years before production started on this movie.
Yeah,
So they were like, we got to get this sucker in and out now.
Right.
Christmas
and this
movies
is
are
during
coming.
this is during the era of rampant merchandising.
Of course.
Like from Spaceballs, merchandising. So I mean, I'm sure they were trying to sell toys.
Absolutely.
They wanted to sell the RoboCop action figures and stuff.
They had something sellable here. They knew it, and they wanted to capitalize on it.
But that's kind of ironic too, because like the big bad in RoboCop is really Omni consumer products.
Of course, they completely missed the point. Obviously,
so you have a movie by committee ruined by corporate interests, and about an evil corporation trying to take over a city. So
yeah, and even the plans in RoboCop 2 for OCP are vague and weird, and it don't really make anything. Foreclosing on the city, I don't know. It seemed very.
I think it makes more sense in the third one, though.
Yes,
the third one. Actually, get to the third one.
Let's get to the third one.
We're talking about the movie that we set out to talk about. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll say off the bat, I didn't mind the third one. I didn't love it.
Right.
It wasn't great. But I enjoyed it more. One of the reasons was it's half an hour shorter. It moved, and it had one plot. They had a plot that went forward, and
you could follow it.
And you could follow it.
Right.
It wasn't great. We should probably mention first off that it is not Peter Weller playing RoboCop. It is a fine character actor named Robert John Burke. Anyone who's a Law and Order fan will recognize him as the sleazy internal affairs cop who wants to take down Stabler on SVU. And any Hal Hartley fans will probably notice him as well from a couple of Hal Hartley films. Not Hal. Yeah, Hal Hartley. Yes, Hal Hartley. I was almost thinking Hal Ashby. Whatever. But anyway, he's a fine actor. He looks enough like Peter Weller in the face.
I think he looks a lot like Peter Weller.
Yeah, especially when you put him in the RoboCop makeup.
Right.
He looks enough like Peter Weller that you don't notice it that much. But I mean, here's the thing. If you read about the effort Peter Weller went into to make RoboCop a character, you can't replace what he did. Like, he spent like time studying like Japanese movement and all these different like mime and all these different things to put something into that character. And if you watch the first one, it comes through. I mean, Peter Weller is a fantastic actor. And in RoboCop 3, Robert John Burke is just playing a giant toy. And that's a shame. And he didn't do a bad job. He was fine. But yeah, this one is the one that is PG-13, first of all. And this is the one that is 100% for kids. This is for kids. In fact, my friend Jason said he's only seen it once, and it was at a slumber party when he was like 10. So I was like, this is that kind of movie.
I think that was my experience, except when my folks got cable when I was younger, they got Showtime, and it was on Showtime often for a little while. Like, they had it running, and any given time you turned on Showtime, RoboCop 3 was on. So
yeah, I'm sure Real Genius was on HBO somewhere too.
Right. Yeah. It's worth mentioning the special effects too, because they spend a lot of time with Peter Weller kind of in shop and being worked on as RoboCop, and the special effects are amazing there. And by the third one, they're not really bothering with that. Like, you're not even fazed by the fact when RoboCop's in pieces or something like that.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, and you can tell like they had that wonderful little 9-year-old Deus Ex Machina Nico, the child who can reprogram robots. So just because we should also mention that there is a robot samurai ninja. Whatever you want to call him.
Well, okay, so that's my tagline, and this is how I tried to convince you to watch the movie. As I'm like, come on, man,
it worked.
Robot ninja, android, and jetpack. Like
Yeah.
those are the two things you need to know. Is
I had
RoboCop
heard
has a
about the jetpack. The jetpack I had heard about. I did not recall the robot ninja, who
right.
smokes. He's a smoking ninja.
I think he drinks at one point too. Does
Yes,
he
he's
like sip a
Bender.
cup of coffee?
he's
Yeah.
he's Bender Rodriguez. This is what we're
Bender
going.
Bending Rodriguez.
Yes. Yeah. So like they build up to this fight with this robot ninja,
Yeah.
and they bust out three of them.
Right.
Like, all right, and then the little kid walks in, reprograms him, and they just kill each other, and it's over.
It's not even clear how she does that.
I have no
Like,
idea.
is she just doing it remotely? Like, did these robots have Bluetooth? Like, I don't.
Apparently, yes. It's the same program that Jeff Goldblum used in Independence Day, I suppose, to reprogram the enemy ships or whatever. Just a little
There's some.
Deus Ex Machina.
It's yeah, exactly. There's a certain charm to that where it, like, may as well be magic,
Yeah, and it's
like
fun.
it just walked in and just did a magic spell and everything was better.
Well, what I liked about it too, man, that's fine. But boy, if you look at the kid's the hero of the movie. The
Right.
kid does most of the work.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like this is why it's a kids movie. It's actually, I think a little kid's in more scenes than RoboCop is, probably, if you actually sat down and looked at it. She's probably got more screen time than RoboCop in that movie.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, her parents die right at the beginning, so this is her little hero's journey, but she doesn't seem to recognize or process that her parents are dead at any point.
No,
Like,
no, not at all.
RoboCop finds out and doesn't tell her,
No, not at all. Well, I guess you should probably describe the plot of the movie. And I don't even think we described the plot of RoboCop 2 because we were so distracted by how bad it was.
Well, you ran through a list of 11
Yes,
plots.
well, I said the plot, well, the one that we're supposed to remember. RoboCop 3, the plot is that OCP. Oh, I wanted to mention this because anyone out there who is a Mystery Science Theater fan, as anyone who follows me on Twitter knows, I am huge one.
Yeah. Right.
This movie, RoboCop 3, has the exact same plot as Escape 2000. It's time to leave the Bronx. Right. You have to leave the Bronx. It's the exact same plot. It even follows the same plot point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So it's the exact same plot. There is OCP has hired this kind of vaguely Euro trashy guy to get a bunch of thugs to go out and
the rehabbers
to go out and evict people from Cadillac Town, what's it called?
Cadillac Heights.
And so that OCP can go take it over and build Delta City. They've been trying to build Delta City for like 20 years at this point. They're not very good at this. But they're
I mean, that seems like, to me, that seems like a bit of realism and maybe prognostication as far as fiction goes, because you have incompetence from this global corporation.
Well, yeah,
it's basically like if Elon Musk tried to take over a town. This is what 20 years later he'd still be trying to do it.
Still be trying to do it. Yeah, and I think like, and they also, one other thing that changes too is like, in RoboCop 1 and 2, the head of OCP is the old man. Dan O'Hurley. He's great character actor. But
who people will recognize as Conlon from Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which
yes, he's also in Twin Peaks. He's the brother of the names escape me completely.
Right. He is in Twin Peaks.
Yes, there's a lot of Twin Peaks crossover in this, I noticed, character actor wise. But the head of the OCP now is the great Rip Torn, who just kind of plays a big, loud, bumbling boob.
Which is out of character for him. It's good to see him stretch his acting.
See him really take it. Like, just take a new idea for a spin here. We just try something new. No, a big, loud, blustery boob. Yes. And I actually, you want to talk about the casts here? Because I
absolutely, because the cast is fascinating. There's fascinating choices.
Well, let's just start with the first one, RoboCop. Great cast. Peter Weller, we've talked about, wonderful actor. And I mean, you think about it, man, has that man had like the best cult film career ever? You got RoboCop, you got Buckaroo Banzai, and Naked Lunch. Like, the man has made like 3 iconically cult 80s films. Like, and he's really in that kind of 8-year area there. He had a really interesting career. Nancy Allen, fine actress. She plays Lewis, who's in all three.
Yep.
One of the few actors who's in all three. She worked with De Palma, fine actress. Dressed to Kill, Blow Up, really good. My
Blow Up's a
favorite.
really good movie.
What's that?
Blow Up is a really underrated movie.
Blow Up is fantastic. I didn't like Dress to Kill so much, but Blow Up is really good.
It's way better than Dress to Kill.
Yeah. Ronnie Cox, who is marvelous. And, you know, Ronnie Cox had spent his whole career as a nice guy actor, you know, like a folk musician. Right. And he gets this role playing Dick Jones, and he is just wonderful. He is just, he plays quiet menace so well. Yeah. And he does the same, and he's also great in Total Recall. It's Cohagen. You know, he parlayed this into a little career as an evil guy.
Yeah.
Good for Ronnie Cox. And I think the man who really carries RoboCop, Kurtwood Smith.
Absolutely.
What Red more Foreman. Can be said about Kurtwood Smith? He is fantastic. He is absolutely chilling scenery. I mean, how many times in your life have you said, "Can you fly, Bobby?" Say it like 4 times a day. I mean, look at my face, dick.
Yeah.
Oh, he
was really good, and he's such a good heavy that you kind of ignore the fact that for some reason him and his gang of 4 or 5 people are able to control the entire underworld of Detroit.
Yeah, no, he's got a very multicultural hodgepodge gang as well. He's got himself, you know.
Well, of course, that's the standard for the 80s.
I think we'll get into the gang. But we'll definitely have to touch on the gangs soon. I think it's a very important thing. But anyway, because he and Kurtwood Smith he looks fucking insane. Right. He looks insane. Like, he looks like the kind of person who would just stab you in the throat for bumping into him on the subway. Just a complete maniac. He
also has kind of like the militia leader, like survivalist kind of, almost terrorist kind of feel to him. I mean, absolutely, he's menacing. He's absolutely menacing, and one of probably the best bad guys in any action movie. You know?
As soon as he's introduced, he's screaming about, "You burn the fucking money!" And then he throws his own gang member out the truck. Like, he immediately starts kicking people. He's just a complete live wire maniac, and he's great at it.
And the extreme violence of Murphy's death, or you know, near death, I guess, because he was resurrected as RoboCop. Like, that is so over the top, and the chilling. This is the thing we get the replay of in RoboCop 3.
Get your check, cash that check, Kurtwood Smith.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that, like, once a year he checks his mail and finds a check for like 38 cents in it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "RoboCop 3, I was in that? The fuck is this?"
So, but like, that's the replay, that because I think it's important to note that if RoboCop wants to remember something as RoboCop, he has to actually record it. He has to, like, activate the recording mechanism in his computer system to record a memory. Otherwise, it's gone forever, presumably.
Yes.
Which I don't know why he wouldn't just be recording everything all the time, but but you know, his core memories are something that he has to manually record. But the one that gets playback a lot is like basically his last living memories. And Kurtwood Smith is the one taking the final shot, and it's not because he's like doing a mercy killing or trying to end it. He's just bored with it.
He's bored. Like, they have to go. We have to.
Yeah, they have to get going. It's just practical. He's like, all right, we had enough. You know, that's enough fun. Everybody's shooting this one guy. You know, it's such a callous kind of evil, that a callous non-enthusiastic kind of evil that like is chilling. Kurtwood Smith did such a great job with that.
The banality of evil, you know, that's the phrase. Right. Somewhere in my house in a box is we have the Criterion Edition DVD of RoboCop, which is the unrated cut.
Yeah.
Which extends that scene an uncomfortable minute or so.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's
already really uncomfortable.
It's absolutely brutal. It is it's more than you can. And also the beginning part where Ed 209 tears that guy apart in the boardroom.
Oh yeah,
that's like 15.
Somehow it doesn't break the window.
That's like 15 seconds longer too. It's really like, jeez, holy shit, this is unbearable. But it's really good. And the rest of the movie is exactly the same, but those two scenes are just like uncomfortably bad. Other casting: Ray Wise, great as the one of Clarence Boddicker's henchmen. Ray Wise, of course, Leland Palmer, Twin Peaks,
Yep.
great. Miguel Ferrer as
Also Twin Peaks.
Bob Jones.
Yep.
Oh no, not Bob Jones. Bob. Hell, I can't remember his name now. My mind just went blank. But he's great. He plays a great '80s coke fiend. I like.
He was probably a graduate of Bob Jones University.
But I do like. I every time I watch it, I notice he throws in little sniffs once in a while, like to show he's a cokehead.
Right.
It's awesome. He's great. Such a great scumbag. One of my favorite little stupid throwaway lines in RoboCop is when Clarence Bacher is about to kill Bob, and the hooker's like, "You gonna call me?"
Yeah.
I just walked in with a gun. He's like, "You gonna call me, Bob?" I love that. Just awesome. And then last but not least, Felton Perry, who plays the African American executive at OCP. He's in all three movies.
He's all three, yeah.
All three.
He's in all three.
He's probably best remembered as the as Dirty Harry's partner in the second movie, Magnum Force. Gets killed, of course, because all of Dirty Harry's partners get killed. Great character actor. Probably seen him on TV 1,000 times. There's no way he wasn't on Hill Street Blues or something.
He's got one of those faces where you're like, where have I seen him before? You know,
I always enjoy. He plays such a good sleazy bootlicking lackey who's always eager to watch his opponents get murdered. Like when RoboCop's going to shoot Dick Jones, he is so thrilled about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
I don't remember his name.
So the cast of RoboCop 2, not nearly as illustrious. We do have Peter Weller returning, and Nancy Allen returning, and Felton Perry returning, and Daniel Hurley as the old man. Otherwise, the new cast, we mentioned Tom Noonan, another great actor, really just a great, big, huge weirdo guy. Love him. Always good. One that got me very in the heart was the one good fake commercial in RoboCop 2 is the car alarm that like electrocutes the guy. That was the great John Glover, who just a great character actor. I'm sure everyone knows him. He was the scummy West Coast executive in Scrooged. And he was the Donald Trump stand-in Clamp in Gremlins 2. Another great movie. And one person I did notice kind of peeking around the corners of RoboCop 2 was Mark Rolston, who, if anyone has seen The Shawshank Redemption, is the lead sister, the creepy, crazed rapist who attacks Tim Robbins' character. Just one of those guys I always notice because he has a very defined face. Like, hey, it's the guy who tries to rape Tim Robbins. Okay, so
always good to see that guy.
Always good. There's someone I do want to mention who is in all three movies that doesn't get much call is actor. I had to look up his name because I never knew it. Robert Duquy. Not sure how you say it. He's the chief.
Right. The police chief.
Damn it, Murphy.
Yeah.
That guy. He's always doing a good job. And hey, cash those checks, man. I get it. So RoboCop 3. Do you want to, before I start listing, do you want to throw in any thoughts here on this completely bonkers casting?
Well, I just want to say it's delightful because
it is.
Because as soon as you look at it, you're like, Rip Torn. I love Rip Torn. Like, and then you're like, Stephen Root.
Stephen Root
is in this.
Stephen Root. There are a few actors on this planet who delight me more than Stephen Root. I absolutely adore Stephen Root. Bill Dauterive on King of the Hill, he's hilarious. And
one I always remember with him, I can't look at his face without thinking of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yes.
He's the blind guy that runs the studio, and he's got this weird look on his face. He like acts weird and does
Stephen Root is just one of those actors where you just look at him and like he's a fantastic. And for me, I'll always, of course, Office Space, which he's probably best known for, Milton Wadhams. But for me, his absolute apex was News Radio as the Jimmy James. He is absolute. He and Phil Hartman are just magic together. I can talk with Stephen Root for days. I love Steve, and he was the bad guy. Oh, it broke my heart to see Stephen Root was a bad guy.
Not just a bad guy, but like a weasel.
It's a turncoat.
Yeah. He's a stoolie.
He's a stoolie, and he does kind of do stoolie very well. But okay, so we can go. Nancy Allen is in this again,
Right.
and my only note for her was poor Nancy Allen.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's not Meryl Streep or anything, but she's a good actress. She should do more than this.
Right.
Robert John Burke as Murphy this time. CCH Pounder, who I know I've seen her 1,000 times. She was
Well, the one that struck me was Bordello of Blood, the Tales from the Crypt movie. She's in that.
Oh, Bordello.
No, wait, no, not Bordello of Blood. She's in Demon Knight.
Demon Knight.
The other Tales from the Crypt movie. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think she's on one of the banes of my existence, NCIS New Orleans. As a New Orleanian, it makes me want to kill somebody, but fair enough. Hey, they said paycheck to paycheck. The great Stephen Root, we mentioned, Rip Torn, of course. Some Jeff Garlin from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That one, yeah. I mean, I saw that in the cast list, and I was like, what? Jeff Garlin?
I know.
And, yeah, like Larry David's manager from
Larry David's fat fuck manager is in this. Awesome! I can't wait.
And I was really looking for him, and then eventually I'm like, oh, he's just in the scene for a second, reacting to the TV.
He pops up again, he pops up again much later, one time.
Right. Yeah.
Jill Hennessy, who plays the ridiculously named Dr. Lazarus, like, oh, come the fuck on. You don't get to be that heavy-handed, okay?
You do if you're Frank Miller. He comes from comic books.
Dr. Lazarus. My note was Dr. Lazarus, come on.
Right, yeah.
But she is, anyone who's watched NBC over the past 30 years knows her from Law and Order, and from Crossing Jordan, which I've never seen. Which was on for like 9 seasons somehow. Don't even know. She's also in one of the most bizarre films. Have you ever seen Dead Ringers by David Cronenberg? About the twin evil.
I'm not a big Cronenberg guy. So.
The evil twin gynecologist played by Jeremy Irons. Well, she's in that too. Some great those guys though. Oh, also Bradley Whitford, who was on the West Wing.
Mm-hmm.
He's the executive who kills himself with a gun.
Yeah.
That's Bradley Whitford. 2 suicide jokes in this movie in like 5 minutes. Very odd, but hey, we'll get to that.
Right.
Okay, and then there's a couple of those guys. Daniel von Bargen, who we all know is Kruger from Seinfeld. George's boss.
He was one of George's bosses.
Yes. And there was one more that I saw that I started laughing hysterically when I saw it. The guy who calls Jerry a phony. Lee Ehrenberg is his name. I had to look it up. He's the guy who calls Jerry a phony, and then Jerry breaks his thumbs later. A couple of seasons later, Jerry breaks his thumbs. I think that's in the Susie, if I'm not mistaken. The cast is just like, you're like, that guy. Hey, look at that. Oh, look at that guy. It is just nothing but that guys. It is fantastic. And
and then and along with that, you have callbacks to the first movie that the second movie ignored. So
yes, I saw a couple of those. Ed 209 makes an appearance right away.
Right. Ed 209's back, but then that's it.
And then they break him immediately. He's broken immediately because he's a piece of shit. The 6000 SUX.
Any giant robot that's entirely defeated by stairs. It's probably not.
Stairs and a small child with like a speaking spell apparently can hack into Ed 209, no problem.
I can see why they retired him.
Yes.
What, the SUX 209?
The 6000 SUX made an appearance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. The newscaster, Mario Mikado, I had to look him up. It says he's in the second one too, but I didn't remember seeing him in the second one.
Well, I mean, you just go into a fugue state during the second one sometimes.
Yes.
Is what I noticed. So
he very easily could have been in it. They didn't bring back Lisa Gibbons for the second one. But they did bring it back Mario Mikado, which you get to watch him pick his nose. That's always nice. The I'll buy that for $1 guy. He's there.
Yeah, classic. You got to have I'll buy that for $1. And when that wasn't in the second one, I was so mad. Rewatching it recently, I'm like, where's I thought he was in all 3.
It's classic. We all know it. And I do think it's fairly prescient as to where television has gone.
Right.
In the past. Verhoeven was onto something here.
Right.
He had some
Well, I mean,
ideas
that kind of struck me as something like in between. Like I always saw that guy as maybe like somewhere between like Benny Hill and Al Bundy as far as TV
yeah,
goes, you know,
yeah. I
like
didn't make the Benny Hill connection, but you're 100% right there. It is
right, because he's
100% Benny
surrounded
Hill.
right,
Yes,
he's surrounded by women that are scantily clad. And yeah, I mean,
yes,
it was never really clear what that was. It's just a popular show, and that's his tagline. Like
yeah.
it's
That's
just
what I
always
like
on
about
the
the
TV
joke.
in the first one. Yeah,
There is no joke. Um,
yeah.
it reminded me of like
It's kind
my.
of.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it reminds me of Fred Willard in A Mighty Wind, where he
What
talked about
happened?
having what
What
happened?
happened? Like, when we were in high school, my friends and I, we made this list of uh, punchlines with no joke, and we
Right.
walk into a room saying them. Um, like you think that's tangy, try the blue one. Things like
Right.
that. Just
Yep.
completely batshit things to say when you walk into a room. Uh, and then or things to say in an elevator to somebody, like
Yeah.
things like that. But it
Right.
struck me as that like someone just had this great stupid punchline with no joke, and
Right.
that makes it's all the better for it though, because I don't want to know what it is.
I
It's
don't want to
better
know
not
either.
knowing.
And it sticks in your mind. You always remember that guy.
Yeah.
And he's a professor, I guess, in Syracuse that we found out recently.
Peter
Somebody
Weller.
said on no, the guy that I'd buy that for $1 guy.
I think Peter Weller was a professor at Syracuse.
Oh, well, that actor, somebody was having a conversation with me on Twitter about him working at the school that he worked at or something.
I'm going to look that up. I remember that conversation too, but I thought we were talking about Peter Weller, but I know Peter Weller like is a PhD of like medieval literature or something. Like he's
No,
got like
okay.
yeah.
We were definitely talking about the I'll buy that for $1
Okay.
guy.
But no, that is wonderful stuff. I do think that is just one of those wonderful enduring images where it's only gotten funnier as I've gotten older for no
Right.
particular reason. Um, I just do really enjoy that. I was
Yeah, he appears once in RoboCop 3, but that's good. That's enough.
That's all we
I'm
need.
glad he was there. Yeah.
And it's right at the beginning too. There was also some other weird callbacks to like it kind of followed the same plot points too. There was a lot of the same plot points in RoboCop 3 as there were in the first one. Like
Mhm.
there's like there was actually one little scene I thought was actually kind of funny when they're fixing RoboCop in like the underground,
Yeah.
and
Right.
there's like these little flashes of like them bickering.
He keeps waking up it's like waking up during an operation,
Yeah, and like
basically.
like they're bickering over him.
Right.
And it's kind of natural and pretty funny. Like, and I think it's
Right.
because like you have some like good actors, you have like
Yeah.
some solid actors like just tossing off lines, and it works.
Yeah.
It's definitely the performances in 2 or in 3 are so much better than 2.
Yeah, because the guy that played Kruger on Seinfeld is just like basically an auto mechanic.
Yes,
He's like I'm not changing a transmission in a
there's just a spark
76
plug lady or
Chevy.
something. Yeah. No, he's like, yeah. There's some just really fun performances in it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just think that I don't want to say it got RoboCop, because I don't think you can get RoboCop in a PG-13 movie for children,
no,
but it at least tried to get
yeah,
some of
it
that
did.
spirit back, and with the
And the
plot
commercials,
especially. Yeah.
yeah, the fake commercials were a little bit more fun again.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean it almost seemed like uh it didn't quite get how to do the dark satire of the first one, which to be fair is probably really hard. That's why we only have like one Verhoeven, like
Yes,
there's
it's
only one of
difficult,
him. It's
and
difficult to do well, but they tried this time where they
well,
really didn't seem to in the second one.
and the attempts were weird. Like I was saying earlier, there's a weird like suicide joke in like,
Right.
like there's a guy jumps. They're like what I forget what happens. Like their OCP stock is plummeting or something like that, and
Right.
the whole company's freaking out. Everyone's running around like a crazy
Yeah.
person, and Bradley Whitford and Felton Perry and Rip Torn are like walking and having this long conversation, like a very
Right.
obviously Brad Whitford going to be on West Wing, very Aaron Sorkin walk and talk
Right.
kind of thing going on
Yeah. And
here.
this guy's got his wife on speakerphone
Yeah,
as
and he
he's
jumps
jumping
out the
out the
window.
window. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see him land with a thud next to Rip Torn's limo or something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus. And then Bradley Whitford makes a joke. He's like, I wouldn't go out like that. I'm packing heat. He pulls out a gun and he's like, I'll just eat a bullet. And like, well, Jesus Christ, this is for kids. And then
Right.
like he gets fired for fucking up the RoboCop thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And like he leaves and it lingers for like a minute, then you just hear a muffled gunshot in the background. Like, oh my God. Hey kids.
Well, in part, so I mean, a lot of this stems from the takeover by the evil Japanese corporation, because not
Well,
only do we have
Japanese.
we have an evil American corporation, OCP, that we're dealing with, but now controlling shares of it have been bought up by this Japanese corporation with their evil overlord, who
Such
seems to have some kind of mystical um kung fu code of honor or something around
yeah,
things.
I mean, and what adds to and there was a time like I kind of forgotten about this, and I don't know if how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? You're
I'm only a couple years younger than
yeah,
you.
okay, so we're about the same
Yeah,
age. I knew you're like
right.
right around my age. Do you remember when like the movie Gung Ho came out and there was a really racist Michael Crichton film called Rising Sun came out where it was like
Yeah. Oh
everyone was
yeah.
scared shitless of the Japanese. Like
Well, it
they're
was the death.
coming and they're
Well, it's
taking
kind of
everything.
that's a really old trope, and I think that was the death throes of like the you know, what would have been problematically called like the Oriental gang leader, or
Yes.
you know, goes back to like Fu Manchu and things like
Yes.
that, like way back.
There's
Um,
yes.
and the early '90s was like kind of the last time they could use that trope.
Yeah, and
Like
I guess
even when Marvel had to do it with the Mandrake character in Iron Man, in
well,
the
the
Iron Man
Mandarin, yeah,
series,
the Mandarin
yeah,
that
they had to turn him into a British actor pretending to be, yeah.
well,
So
yeah, I guess too, like at that time, like early '90s, like the movie was filmed in '91, but not released in '93. So this was
right,
this was filmed like in 1991. So you have to remember, like I guess there was like that Detroit fear of like the Toyota and Honda were making better cars, and
right,
there was legitimate fear in Detroit with the auto industry and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that all does play into it. But yeah, this was very much of that like Japanese are coming, they're gonna buy everything, and
yeah,
this movie just stopped short of like having Japanese guys with like cameras, like
yeah, and
those really
they're
horrible
yeah,
racist '80s tropes of like Japanese tourists and shit. But no, they have
they did speak fake Japanese though,
yes, I was gonna say that. I looked that up. They were speaking fake Japanese. That's
which is impressive in itself. Like anybody that can do a fake foreign language, like if you watch like Sid Caesar was the king of it, you know, or he could just do any language, but none of it was real words. But if you were just listening to him and didn't know, you're like, yeah, that
yes,
sounds like French, or that sounds like German, you know,
yeah,
because
but, like
Sid Caesar was the king of it. But it's so funny when it's just like you couldn't just get a couple guys that speak Japanese.
yeah. How
So
hard would it be to find a guy in California who speaks Japanese and just say, "Hey, could you write these lines in Japanese for us?" Sure, no problem.
right,
And
yeah.
say them, yeah, no problem. I'm
I
sure there
mean,
was plenty of actors who were willing to cash that check.
yeah, I mean, I interviewed Tenny for this show, and we're talking about he had his own little Japanese curio or like collectibles shop, and people at the local college and fans in the area that spoke Japanese would dub or subtitle movies for funsies because they spoke Japanese and they were like, and they're a fan of the material. They're just like, oh, I'll do this for fun, like not for
Yeah,
money, for fun,
yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Like it wouldn't have been hard, you
it's not
know.
even like it's like there's like maybe 3 scenes where someone's speaking Japanese. Like it's just like it smacks of laziness, which is fine.
Yeah,
I get it.
it
They're
does.
on a budget.
Yeah, and it does seem like it's a combination of um, Japanese commercial interests being evil in the movie, but also a little bit of that old like evil Oriental mastermind character because he appears
Definitely.
as a giant head on the screen
Yeah, and
whenever they have a
right.
board meeting,
I
and
I
then
did hear the little dun, 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 dun. I heard that in the background at least one time.
yeah, of
I
course they
did
got to throw that in.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
a gong, thank God, but I'm
So
sure there was
yeah,
one somewhere.
so in
Uh
this movie, the Japanese are coming to take over our cities, and they're of course going to use mandroid robots that are also ninjas.
Ninja robots that smoke and have a drinking problem. Apparently, we're just these were Bender bots early on. But yeah,
Right.
that's a question there. I just like why is OCP fucking around with RoboCops and Ed 209s when apparently completely passable human androids are available in Japan?
Well, because Japanese are just better at that
Just
than
better
us.
at it, I guess.
Yeah.
So the Japanese they've bought into OCP and they want, and the OCP has to like a certain time and date to tear down Cadillac Ville or whatever the hell it's called to make room for Delta City, and so that's why the rehabbers are coming in, right? That's the plot. Okay, and in that situation, Officer Lewis gets killed with RoboCop. RoboCop gets his ass kicked. RoboCop gets his ass kicked a lot. That needs to be spoken about too. RoboCop not that
Well,
good.
yeah. You see, yeah, that's like the main problem is not only does Japan have mandroids that are passable as human, and smoke and can move effectively. Like all they really had to do was program RoboCop to duck once in a while or
Move a
move
little
out of
bit.
the way. He
Yeah.
just takes fire every time, and it
He
doesn't
really
seem to work.
He
You
doesn't
think
have
he
a whole
would?
lot of situational awareness. Like if some dude's busting out a fucking grenade launcher, move, get
Like,
behind something.
I guess the idea was that he was only going to be dealing with stick 'em ups and like maybe
True,
gangs or something
true.
like that. So he wasn't supposed to be shot at with a tank or
Yes. Well, they also, let's be honest, the movies, even the first one, likes to pick and choose when he's indestructible and when he isn't.
yeah, and also they're never really clear about how human he is. Because as far as I can tell, it's just a face. The only part
Well,
of Murphy they saved was a face, but at least some part of the brain, I guess.
it
But
changes in parts. In the first one, they don't get into it because
right,
they tear off his arms and everything, and it's just his face. The second one, I think, talks about like his brainstem is intact, I
yeah,
think. And then in the third one, she does say his brain is intact and part of his circulatory system, like his heart, maybe, I think, is
yeah,
intact.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they really do just, he has a digestive system in the first one. He eats baby food, whatever. They
Oh
really
yeah,
pick and choose what they want him to have. But like, so he goes into Clarence Bonaker's cocaine operation, which is that they spill a lot of cocaine in that scene.
right.
I'm not a part of the drug trade, but I'm pretty sure you don't just spill your shit in the floor, right? I think you're going to do a little bit more quality control with
Well,
your
I'm led to
operation.
believe from Brian De Palma that you pile it up on your desk and face plant into it, and
Well,
then
also, I do like that Clarence Boddicker sells his cocaine in neat little like labware, like little
yeah,
beakers. Like,
yeah,
oh, it's cute. I like that.
that's
It's
convenient.
like it's his that's the Clarence Boddicker mark of quality. It comes in a little beaker. Um, like
Yeah,
no plasticine bags for us people. No, beakers, high quality cocaine served in beakers. That's the Clarence Boddicker promise. But when he busts into Clarence, but they just open fire and nothing happens.
right.
He's just shooting them all. Then
Yeah,
the cop later on, when he goes to arrest Dick Jones, and he goes into the cops come to get him, they fuck him up.
right,
But it's no different than what we just saw.
right. Well, I always think it's like the cumulative effect. Like he draws heavy fire, and then that's
Yeah, I
fine. But then
guess.
he draws it again, and that's where it starts to wear him down, is because he got hit a second time. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And in
None of it
RoboCop,
ever really makes sense. But
no,
he
no.
does get his ass handed to him regularly. Like
Yes,
he
he
spends
really
a lot of
does.
time broken and needing.
Well, RoboCop 2, they just take him the fuck apart.
Yeah, yeah. He's a
And
pile of parts. Yeah,
yes, they just take him apart. And it doesn't seem all that difficult.
right.
Um, and yeah, it does seem like they really do. And in 2, he falls off like a 40-story building. He pulls Kane down with him. RoboCop
Right.
2. I like that there is a RoboCop 2. That's kind of great that there's a RoboCop 2 in RoboCop 2.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, hey, good branding. I like that. But he pulls him off a building with him,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
mean, in
he
the
just,
first one, he gets like heavy steel girders dropped on him by Ray Wise.
yes, he does.
He gets buried under him, and he's fine, I guess.
I've seen. The other day, I was telling my lovely wife, my muse, that
Yeah.
I said to someone the other day, they'll fix you. They fix everything.
Yeah.
Which is like one of my favorite lines. And it looked like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, oh, sorry, I watch RoboCop a lot, and it's just one of those lines that get stuck in my head. And whenever someone says I can fix that, I say they'll fix it.
Yeah.
They fix everything. Oh, I know what it was. It was we moved at my job. We moved offices recently, and IT came to fix all of our printer issues. And I said that, and someone was like, "What?" It's like,
See,
no.
I usually go for we have the technology, we can rebuild him.
Yeah, $8 million, $6 million. Was it $6 million man? I don't remember.
$6 million.
It's
Well,
$8 million.
if you adjust for
For
inflation,
it's like the $1.7 billion man or whatever he is now. But yes, other famous androids or cyborgs.
right?
But yeah, it's frustrating when you think about like, he's not a very good hero. He's
No.
great, and like I said, like you really like I every time I watch the first one, like I did last night, the scene, like especially the scene where he's getting shot at by the cops,
Yeah.
like it's absolutely gut wrenching. Like he
Mhm.
plays Peter Weller does such a great job of playing that scene where you just it does like he's going through like pain and betrayal and all of that, and he's just trying to crawl to safety. In fact, there's a really wonderful like Stations of the Cross moment where he's like one knee down, like reaching up like Jesus with the
Yeah.
cross. Like
Right.
Verhoeven's just like rubbing his hands together, like, yeah, here we go. But
Yeah.
no, he plays such a great that scene is just so wonderful.
Right.
And then that leads into the scene where he takes his mask off and looks at his face for the first time, and just great job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that gets into the religious symbology going on here, and especially like in the third one, in the scene you were talking about at the church. For one thing, just to get back to the weird nature of RoboCop's programming, is he
Yes.
always seems to forget that he's not allowed to fight the OCP people. He's like, "Oh yeah, that goes against my programming. Like, I guess I'm useless here. I'm in
Yeah.
this standoff that I can't do a damn thing." And as a result, Lewis, famous last words or penultimate words, I guess. If you want to get them, you'll have to shoot through us. Meaning, like they're going to protect the people that are hiding in the church after being
Yes.
evicted by the rehabbers,
Yes.
and that gives the lead rehabber the opportunity to be to deliver the bad guy line and say, "I don't have a huge problem with that."
Oh, that guy's. I don't even know. I forgot to write down who that guy is, but he's great. He's like low.
Yeah.
He's like low rent Ewan McGregor, like dollar store Ewan McGregor kind of.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, he shoots the crap out of Lewis. And but as far as the religious symbols go, okay, well, you have the church. RoboCop had seen children outside, especially the Nico, the little
Yes.
girl, and he recorded it and recorded the cross on the top, the steeple.
Yes.
So he recognizes the church. He knows what this is.
Well,
then
he'd forgotten
he
in the
has to
second one that
bring-
he was Jesus. He forgot in the second one. Oh shit, I'm Jesus. I forgot about that.
He's really selective about what he remembers. I mean, that's what I mean, is he has to kind of make it a point to remember something. It's like his mental notes are quite literally digital files that he has to save, or if he doesn't, he's like, oh, every time I aim at this rehabber, my programming gets in the way. I this is a new experience for me.
Shit, yeah, I forgot about that. You'd think they would have tweaked that a little bit too, but no, they didn't. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But then you have the death of Lewis. Basically, this is what I'm building up to. Is you have the death of Lewis, which involves the interior of the church and a lot of heavy religious stuff.
Of course. Of course. I mean, and of course, the first one is pretty heavy-handed with it. I mean, obviously, he's brought back to life. He's betrayed by the police officers and busted up, and then he has like his second rebirth where he takes the helmet off and reveals his face, and that's where he regains his humanity. And then he gets really heavy-handed when he's walking on the water.
Yeah.
At the factory to kill Clarence, and then Clarence stabs him with a spear in the side. Like, Jesus, come on.
Yeah.
And then he spills the blood and it's all in there, man. It's great. But
so
no,
really the point of these movies is that RoboCop is the truth and the way.
Yes.
And
most definitely the cleansing power of violence.
Should we start a church of RoboCop? Is what I'm suggesting.
I think we already have. I know in my household, that's who I look to. You know, George Carlin says he prays to Joe Pesci because he can get shit done. I pray to RoboCop,
Yeah.
except when there's like grenades involved, because he's gonna take a fucking hit every goddamn time. If there's heavy fire involved, no, I'm not praying to RoboCop. He's just gonna get his ass kicked. I've got to reprogram him and shit.
I mean, I don't really want cyborgs like this or killer robots to become a reality as much as they already are in our day and
Yes.
age. But
Yeah.
so I don't want to give them any help. But a helpful clue that I think would have worked for RoboCop is just program him to duck once in a while, or
Just
move out of the way, or
yeah,
avoid getting shot or hit with missiles.
recognize like a grenade launcher when it's coming, and
Yeah.
duck. Get
A
behind
little bit
something.
of situational awareness and ability to counter it in some way, any way at all. His reaction time is so slow, so when he fights like a ninja robot, he's kind of at a huge disadvantage.
He gets his hand and he gets his fingers cut off. He gets his arm cut off.
Right.
He just puts a gun in there anyway. That was an upgrade. They didn't upgrade his programming. They just gave him a gun in his hand. His hand comes off. Like, okay.
I think it was a flamethrower in his hand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a machine gun too. Because remember, when he goes to save Lewis and he like busts out the car and just starts hosing down multicultural gang members.
Well, yeah. I like that it was a clean enough cut that he was able to just attach this gun arm. Like, you must have cut him right on that input seam, and like it all just automatically went together.
Yeah. It just kind of broke off at the USB port. Just plug it in.
Yeah, exactly. You can just plug it right back in.
Yeah.
So, all right, we need to talk about the gangs too, because I forget what they're called in this. Was it like screamers or
splatterpunks? Splatterpunks.
Yeah. I feel like this is a trope sort of in movies of that time. It's just like they're punk, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, it feels like screenwriter's disease. Like they were like there's like, because you'll see this in any movie from that time that involves gangs. And I mean, even like it, and it comes up in like the Police Academy movies, even like they're street gang somewhere got mixed up with punks. And I know most punks I know like grew up in the suburbs and had a home. But like in these movies, it seems like everyone's idea of a street gang was like what punks looked like on Chips. Or like Quincy, like those famous Quincy and Chips punk episodes. And that's just where it stopped. Like, we're just not looking anymore.
Right.
So street gang, and another great third that I hope that should this work out, we could talk about Death Wish 3. All the street gangs in Death Wish are just these like multicultural punk hordes. They just left an Exploited concert and wandered out in the street and were like, let's go, beat up a cop or something, or do some nuke. And
I mean, like, there you don't have to, there's no explanation beyond that. And again, kind of going back to comic book things, occasionally that's one thing that you have to wonder at a point with, like, oh, the Joker shows up and there's a bunch of weird clown type people around him, or like the Penguin's here and there's a bunch of henchmen. Like, where do the henchmen come from? Like, and that's why I love the Venture Brothers, because there's like a whole explanation. Like, there's a process, like a bureaucratic system that allows you to work your way up within organized crime as a henchman, and then maybe an arch villain eventually. But it doesn't make any sense when you have these gangs for which there exists no central leadership or anything like
that too.
There's no big bad. They're just roving squatters, I guess, that are heavily
and that's
armed.
the thing. Like, you think about gangs in movies, think about the mafia. It's about making money and having power and control. Think about drug cartels, or like Los Angeles street gangs. There's like
they have something that they're doing.
There's something they're doing, or they trade guns, they sell drugs, they run gambling. They do
It's a
something.
syndicate.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's a
syndicate.
syndicate.
They take in
There's
money for doing something.
yeah.
What these motherfuckers just wander around cityscapes and
Hmm.
break shit, break windows, spray paint. What do
Shoot
they
at cops whenever
shoot
they
at
show up.
cops?
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah, they don't. There's no organized purpose to these street gangs. It's just like kind of like general chaos,
Yeah.
which I guess is fun for a while. But I would imagine at some point, just most of these guys end up going to junior college or something, getting a welding certificate. Like there's not a lot of like. I would get tired of squatting.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Yeah.
it's like in that universe, like it's like uh in our world, rich kids go to Europe for a semester or whatever. Like, oh, I graduated. I'm doing a summer abroad. I'm going to go
Yeah.
backpack through Russia or something. I'm going to see the pyramids. Maybe these motherfuckers are just like, Dad, I'm going to go squat for a year. I'll be
Cool.
back. Like maybe it's just like what rich kids do when they're
Well,
bored,
I
and then
mean,
they come back home and go.
honestly, that in my experience of being in various music and arts scenes over the years, there's a whole lot of I think that, the term they would use was gutter punk or
Butter
like
punch, yes,
yeah,
yes,
and like the folk punk people and train hoppers. It's like at any time they could just slink on back to a huge home in the suburbs where their folks live.
yeah.
And
It-
and like these aren't people that they're just kind of on the road or squatting by choice
yeah,
because
it's
they think
it's
it's cool.
it's what they think
you
is
know?
cool, and yeah, it's something they do for a year or two, then they go home and they finish their degree in comparative
Yeah.
literature and
Yeah.
go to Vassar
Exactly.
or something. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. So I'm thinking that's what this is. These are like the gutter punks of the RoboCop world. That these are just like bored teenagers who are like, I'm gonna go fuck some shit up for a while, break some windows, spray paint
Right.
some things, be a splatter punk, and then go on home and finish my degree in electrical engineering and go on.
Yeah. Well, it's all performative anyway, so maybe it's an act of performance art is basically that's the splatterpunk aesthetic is incredible violence and pointless deranged acts of vandalism and squatting and filth as performance art, and you do that
Yeah,
for a
yeah, I
year or
think you're right.
two, and then
It's
that's
very.
your semester abroad is in the abandoned already evicted sections of Detroit
Yeah, I
that
would if I had to guess, I bet all the people in charge are like stage actors, like who are really into like guerrilla theater and all that shit.
yeah,
Uh
it's extreme method acting.
yeah, I mean there's a really great sci-fi author named Samuel Delaney
Yeah,
who wrote this book Trouble on Triton, which I'm slowly getting my way through right now because I'm a very slow reader these days.
yeah.
Grad school warped my brain. But there are like roaming gangs of performance artists in that book.
Oh,
Who
okay.
like put on street plays, and I'm like that's what that's what the splatter punks are. It's like, all right, thanks for supporting live street theater. If you have any donations, please give them over here. We'll be over
All
here. We'll
right.
be at
So I
the
guess that's a thing.
yeah.
That's it.
We
Here I'm
figured it
thinking
out.
of
See, that's what this
yeah,
is. This is the science of this. We figured out the splatter punks. That's it. We got it. But can we talk about Nuke for a second?
yeah,
It's
sure.
not RoboCop 3 per se, but
Is it the fake drug?
Nuke. Yes, the
Yeah,
fake drug.
right.
No one seems to actually get high off Nuke. It doesn't do anything. It just kind of.
It's more of a vibe, man. It's not really a high. It's kind of a vibe.
Well,
You
I
just
like that there
vibe
were
with
like
it.
different flavors of Nuke. Like they
Yeah.
they busted out like some blue Nuke, and the guy shot
Well,
it up. He's like, add a little more phosphine 14 to it or something. And it's like the blue Nuke looked a lot like Mad Dog 2020 Blue Hawaiian, which
yeah, yeah.
which I don't know if you've ever vomited up that wonderful concoction, but
Nope.
oh, well, you've you won. Congratulations. You have lived a better life than I have. Um, but yeah, I was very fascinated like the different flavors of Nuke, and I was kind of wondering like, is it like because like they come in a little package and like they're lined up and they kind of the
Well,
color changes.
yeah. I mean,
Is it
they're
like
really
birth control
trying with
pills or something where it's like
they're trying
this
with
is
they're trying with the branding. I mean, not everybody can be Clarence Boddicker with the sleek elegance of beakers full of cocaine. You
yes.
know,
Well, there's
uh,
an elegant simplicity to the beakers of cocaine. It's
right?
like
That's what I'm
you,
saying.
you look at
You
it, you know what you're getting.
don't overcomplicate. There's class to that.
Yeah,
You have
and
the classy beaker full of cocaine versus the really gauche kind of assortment of rainbow colors that you have with Nuke.
yeah, and
Um,
like Also, it seems like it'd be easy to fake nuke. Like, just put some Kool-Aid in there. It's like Sharkleberry Finn. I don't know what the fuck
Yeah,
this is.
because if you're not going to
Ecto
get high
Cooler.
either way, so
Yeah. And like, if you could fake the cocaine, I guess, yeah, it's fine. But you can easily fake nuke. I mean, I could just like highlighter some water, some little food coloring. That's it. And it seems like a lot of packaging too. They're not. I would bet like the Pacific Ocean garbage patch in that world is way bigger.
right.
It's just full of little
Yeah,
nuke
and
packages.
I mean that's a lot of overhead. Those
Hmm.
the packaging. It's like, what are you doing? You're gonna screw your profits right from the beginning. Well, I'm not here to tell people how to run their organized crime and
No,
imaginary drugs.
I
I'll
am
leave it
not.
to my imaginary sponsors to do that because they, they'll probably be able to figure that out much better than the splatter punks. And
Third time's the charm. Brought to you by Nuke.
well, I can't officially say that, but I will say,
Try our new red banana.
yeah, right.
Nuke by Mad Dog 2020. Yeah. It just I just we were very confused as to what nuke is. And of course, like every other plot in RoboCop 2, nuke is brought up and then just easily discarded when
Yeah,
necessary.
right.
Nuke's a
But
problem.
yeah,
And then RoboCop 2 is addicted to nuke. It's like, well,
right.
Jesus. It's so terrible. So terrible.
Yeah.
One
All right.
I had a thought. I mentioned this to you earlier, so I wanted to get your
Okay.
thoughts on this.
Yep.
A little brainstorm this morning as I was thinking about this. OCP
Hmm.
seems to have a lot in common with the beloved Acme Corporation of Looney Tunes fame
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
because
I can see it.
they're kind of a vague company that does a lot of random shit. They build
Yeah.
everything, they kind of do everything, and nothing they have works. Nothing
Yeah.
OCP builds actually works at all. In fact, it causes hilarity. Ed 209 falling down the stairs and crying like a baby, or
Mhm.
there's not a lot of actual. They
Yeah.
seem to be a fairly incompetent corporation.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I was getting at. Where it seems that way now, where we have CEOs of corporations that seem to do everything and also nothing anymore. You know. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I do kind of feel like there's something to be said for just the general incompetence of CEOs and the pointlessness of them.
yeah. It's kind of amazing how absolutely useless OCP is. Like nothing they build works, and they've been trying to build Delta City for like a decade. Haven't even broken
Right.
ground on it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that was the biggest takeaway for me from the first one, and just by virtue of them using the same setting and the same characters in the movies, that carried with me was the evil corporate element that's just sucking the life out of everything, and then and sometimes literally like evicting people and moving them out, or
Yeah,
making everybody's lives worse actively, and kind of a corporate fascist state, like a marriage of a corporate
yeah.
and governmental environment. And it's kind of like this is the kind of movie that like Peter Thiel would watch and be like, yeah, you know what? There should be Delta cities.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I mean, I
Those
mean,
rehabbers have the right
that's
idea.
a pretty good idea. Well, I mean, and I think too, like, and you see it, and it's something Verhoeven goes back to a lot. You see it in Total Recall and Starship Troopers. That it's just um, when all else fails, kill the poor. Like that seems to be
Yeah,
like Verhoeven really goes back to that well a lot. It's like when all else fails, when there's nothing else to do, and they run out of ideas, they're gonna come and kill you. They're gonna come and
right.
take you. They're gonna come and crush you. They're gonna take what's yours.
Yeah.
And it's very much
But often they won't try anything else first, really. They'll
no.
give
It's always like
half-hearted
their first
efforts.
option.
Right, yeah.
I mean, and I think too, like you can see it in Starship Troopers that by the time he made that movie, he was just like grabbing us by the lapels and like, don't you fucking see this?
And we still don't.
Like, do you
There's
want
still
to be a
people.
fascist? Are you fucking serious? Like, yeah, he's just by that point, he's just like slapping us over the head. He's like, if I give you Doogie Howser in an SS uniform, will you finally fucking understand what I'm talking about here? And
Yeah.
no, we're not.
As it turns out, no.
No, as it turns out, no, we didn't. Um, do you think I wanted to put Casper Von Dien and Denise Richards in a movie? Do you think I wanted to do this? No, it's for a reason. I wanted you to see how stupid you look.
Yeah.
Great movie. Great movie. Love it.
Yeah.
Have you
Okay,
seen any of the
well,
sequels to that by any chance?
no, but I was going to suggest that we should at some point do Starship Troopers 3. But
I think if we do this again, maybe something a little more joyful next time.
yeah,
The world of RoboCop is a little soul crushing. As
it
much
is.
fun as the first movie is, spending too much time in like a corporate dystopian wasteland is a little more than I can, especially considering like
It's a little on the nose.
we kind of live in one. Do I really want to do I really want to there's a reason why I post shitty hair metal cards on Twitter. It's like I can't participate in the rest of this anymore. Or I'm going to go insane. So
Right.
I'm just going to put pictures of idiots
Yeah.
with long hair on
And
instead
makeup.
of engaging with everything else. So yes.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's a lot of heavy concepts that we're dealing with here, and we've neglected something that's really important, a- tantamount in importance to all the messages that Verhoeven tried to deliver in the first one. That this kind of makes a little bit of a return to, and this element of the movie that I'm referring to, of course, is RoboCop commandeering the pink caddy of a pimp.
RoboCop. eh, eh, RoboCop commandeers a pimp mobile. Yes. Um, I think I would bet if we went back and looked at the original script of RoboCop, it's probably in there. They probably had
Yeah,
RoboCop stealing a pimp car way back when, and
right.
they were just only able to get to it. But no, it is definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I
Well,
will.
right.
I will
I mean, I think when they pitched RoboCop 3, they were like, "Well, RoboCop commandeers a pit mobile," and they're like, "Run it!" They had to
like,
build a movie around that.
yeah, they were kind of like, well, okay. So RoboCop's trying to save these kids, and the producer's like, yawn,
Yeah,
and he's fighting a robot ninja. Like, okay, whatever. It's like, and he flies. RoboCop can fly now, and he can fly, and like yawn is like, and there's a pit mobile. I'm listening.
now we're talking.
I'm listening. Continue.
You
Um,
have my attention.
you have my attention. No, it's great. And a remarkably well built pimp mobile. I think the Ewan McGregor clone like shoots it like 16 times with grenades and it's just still going.
Yeah,
And
well,
you
I
know what
think
that
he had a
shows you though?
bazooka, actually. I think I
That,
got hit with a bazooka. The first thing that happens when you hit a well-built pimp mobile with a bazooka is the hood flies off,
of
and
course,
that's it. And
that's it.
that's it. You can still keep going.
You can still
So
keep going. You
you
know,
have a lot of pieces you can lose, like RoboCop. You can just withstand the fire instead of moving out of the way
no,
of
just take it.
incoming fire. Just take it. Keep taking because you can take it
You can
until you
take it.
can't.
No, you can't. But I think what it says most, sure, the Japanese can run an efficient business. Sure, the Japanese can build multiple pass for human robot ninjas.
Right.
But can their cars withstand bazooka shots five
They
times? No, they
cannot.
can't. They
They
cannot.
cannot build
Because
cars like we do here in
because
America.
that car runs on
Detroit,
American
man.
pride. That's American pride is
Motor
what that
City.
is. Motor City
Motor
pride
City.
right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it did remind me too, if anyone has ever been to the wonderful Stax Museum in Memphis, Tennessee, do drop in at some point and see Isaac Hayes's purple and gold caddy that was given to him as a gift for the Shaft soundtrack going multi-platinum. It's amazing.
Phenomenal.
It's covered
Yeah.
in white fur on the inside. It's got a TV and it's got a record player in it, which is amazing because I don't
Yeah.
think you can really listen to records. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking though, if it was that kind of like pimp mobile, it's probably got great suspension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not using that to tear ass around the city.
No, that's
You're
a slow roll.
cruising slow. Yeah.
That's a slow roll.
But
Absolutely.
if needed, you
If needed,
can
you could.
tear ass around the city
You could.
and
And I think the
withstand a
pink
lot of
caddy proves
bazooka
that.
fire. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do we have not touched on RoboCop flying either. RoboCop flies now.
He does. Not a lot though.
And not convincingly.
No.
that is that is a bad special effect, and I'm really glad
Terrible.
they didn't show us that very often. That was really bad. That looked like I'm trying to. I was trying to figure out what it looked like, and I really couldn't put a finger on it at all. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very bad inset shot, and I do. And the sad part is too, not just that, but that the other actors had to pretend like they saw it.
Yeah, right.
It's so sad watching like Kruger
Yeah,
point like in wide-eyed wonder.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, just
And the
terrible.
police chief, because at this point in the movie, the police chief and all of the police have resigned,
Yes,
because they're
that's
not
right.
going to work for the rehabbers, and the
Yes,
rehabbers immediately recruit all the splatter punks. So now you have a
yes,
standoff in Cadillac Heights, which as just a final cap on the Pimp Mobile, the pink Caddy was there symbolically as as like a chariot coming to the rescue of Cadillac Heights,
yeah, and the
and
resilience of Cadillac Heights.
the resilience of it. Yeah,
You
the
keep
fact that
shooting
it
me, I'm not backing
endures.
down. I'm not backing
You
down.
can be broken down to just a frame and an engine, and that thing will keep going. So
Yeah, I think that too, that scene with the showdown between the splatter punks as rehabbers and the cops and the citizens really shows for the PG-13ness of it all, because no one gets hit. No
right.
one. They're
Yeah,
just like fucking unloading shotguns and machine guns at each other from like 20
everybody has
feet.
bad aim. Yeah,
Like 20 feet away. No one gets hit. And
and
it's like if that
rehabbers
was
have tanks and stuff.
if that was
Yeah.
Verhoeven, dude, there's like just entrails and like
Oh
fingers
yeah.
flying off and like
Arms flying, and
backs of heads being blown out. Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
Verhoeven. It's just a fucking bloodbath. There's like
yeah.
two guys alive at the end.
Splatter punks turning into literal splatter
Oh,
on
it's
the
just yeah,
sidewalk.
it's just a complete fucking bloodbath, and it'd be
Yeah,
great.
it
It
would
would
have
mean
been great.
something too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it would have brought a lot to this movie. But to this movie's credit, it does bring back a lot of that fun without being over the top, gory, and violent. Disappointingly enough, but brings back a lot of the fun that was missing in the second one. I think that's important to
Yeah, I
recognize.
mean, like I said, it wasn't a.
Um,
I did find like the last 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, come on, let's end this fucking thing. I'm ready to go
right.
now.
Yeah,
Because it wraps up a lot in about 5 minutes.
it does.
But I didn't
Everything is
find it.
fine and good now.
Yeah, I
Because
didn't. I didn't find it to be a very like unwatchable movie. RoboCop 2 is unwatchable, and I would recommend not watching that movie unless you just have a curious bone in your body and want to see how bad it can get. But
mhm,
RoboCop 3 is not unwatchable. It's not bad. It's
it
not
keeps your interest
boring.
the whole time.
Yeah, and it's a
And
plot that keeps moving, it keeps going,
right,
and it gets you from point A to point B, and it's fine.
yeah.
But
Um, I mean, like high points of it for me are, I think the android is really terrifying, and I mean this is a time where I think about other representations during that time, like you had the Terminator movies and
yeah.
things like that. But the Japanese android, I mean, there's a part where he gets slugged across the face with a lead pipe,
Oh
and it
yeah.
dislocates his jaw entirely, and he's just looking at the guy, and he has this wild grin, and he
Yes.
just puts his jaw back, and then
Yes.
just kills the guys that are all around him. You know, the Japanese samurai android in it is great. It
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
do
good.
much. It's easily defeated, I guess, because it can be defeated by a little girl that remotely programs
Yeah. Little
two
girl
of them to kill each other.
a little girl with a graphing calculator took him down, yes. Yeah.
but but they are, I don't know, they are cool looking. The actor that's doing it is really good at that kind of intensity
Yeah, I know.
and
I don't know who he
uncanniness.
was. I don't know if
Yeah,
he was. He was good. He was very good. I thought.
he had no lines because apparently the android can't talk. But
No,
I
he
did
says a
like.
couple of things. He has like
Does he?
3 lines. Yes,
Oh,
I
all right.
don't ask me what they were, but I think he does talk very briefly. But
Okay.
yes, no, he was good. He was good. I think that's a good idea. That just I think for probably for budgetary reasons could not be fully um examined.
Right. Yeah, I think he gets overshadowed by things like the T-1000 in the Terminator movies, but um, uh, I think it was a really cool element in the movie, and I think the jetpack is kind of a cool idea. It's a shame that they didn't
Again,
have the special effects for it.
yes, the special
Um,
effects budget defeats a decent idea. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and then the end, I guess this is kind of what I was getting to with like the honor code of the Japanese evil corporate overlord is that he sees it as kind of like a battle, like a chess game,
Yes.
and like was basing it on Sun Tzu's Art of War or something like that.
I'm sure he's got a copy of that next to his toilet. 100%.
As all
That's his.
businessmen did in the
That's
80s.
his. Of course.
And when he comes at the very end, because the rehabbers have been defeated, that worked for this man. Like he comes out and he bows to RoboCop.
Yes.
Because he has won.
Well,
And he accepts defeat gracefully.
They have honor, of course. Yes. No, that was a fine ending. Rip Torn gets fired. My friends call me Murphy. You can call me RoboCop. Yes. Yes.
What is it they call you?
What is it they call you? That's a very effective Rip Torn there. Very good. Good job.
I think I could do a really good Rip Torn.
I love Rip Torn. There's never a moment where Rip Torn is wasted, ever. You put Rip Torn in your piece of crap movie, whatever it is, Rip Torn is not going to waste. That man is a treasure. He is always fantastic.
Okay, yeah. So RoboCop's lines in this, pretty much every one of them is awful. Like when Lewis dies, he's kneeling in front of the altar at the thing, and she's saying like, "Get him for me, Murphy," and then she finally dies, and he goes, "Officer Dow."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like sad RoboCop. It's like, does RoboCop have emotions or doesn't he? Come on.
No, he's like they're I don't want to pick on the actor. I don't know enough about Robert John Burke. He does do a very good.
It was the lines. It was not the actor.
Yeah, it was the dialogue. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I think that's one of the problems with this movie, but it's also one of the high points of this movie is, man, if you want to see character actors just doing the best they can with what they're given, man, these guys are they're doing the Lord's work out there.
They're going above and beyond.
They are. I think that is one of the pleasures of this movie is just that the supporting cast is lights out great, and they are giving it their all. And I think if you want to watch like a young Stephen Root and like a young Jill Hennessy, really just like, hey, it's a job, but I'm going to do it well. And have some fun with some really low rent material. I think this is just a good movie for you.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that was all delightful. There's a lot of little delightful things in it.
Yeah, I think that the main characters are underserved. RoboCop, Lewis, they're very underserved by the script. They're just given nothing to do. Right. Especially Nancy Allen. I mean, she just shows up a couple of times and gets shot. That's it.
She was happy to die at that point.
Oh, I'm sure she just wanted to get the hell out of there and get home. Yeah. I'm sure her kids at school the next day. She just wanted to go. But yeah, they don't give RoboCop a fucking thing to do, and like I said, like the second one, he's broken most of the movie.
Right.
He spends more of the movie broken. It's actually functioning. It's very. He's on the verge of getting his ass kicked in every fight. He wins every fight by pure luck, and it's really sad. And not a fitting ending to the RoboCop idea.
Pure luck or divine providence?
Oh, good point. Good point. I didn't think about that. He is the chosen one. He is the Christ child. It's really they don't give RoboCop a whole lot to do, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see that character just be reduced to like flopping around on the ground and being helpless. And I think that's probably summed up by the budget. Probably, I think that's probably budgetary reasons why RoboCop can't actually function, because we got the suit for 4 days and that's it.
And it's like the jetpack's a cool idea, but they're like, we have the budget to make him fly sort of maybe convincingly once, so please don't write that into the script too much.
It's sad like that, but no. I would recommend it as a watch. I'd say it's a good movie. It's not I don't say good movie. It's certainly a watchable film. If you have
good is a subjective term.
Good is a subjective term. No, is it like you have your choice of watching like a Cassavetes film or this? No, choose a Cassavetes film. Watch Love Streams.
If you have a choice between this and RoboCop 2, watch this.
Watch this. Yes, if it's like I could sit and watch a Police Academy film or RoboCop 3. Pick RoboCop 3. You'll have a lot more fun with that.
And I think we both agree that it's entertaining enough that you don't you don't stop paying attention. You can just sit and watch it, and an hour and a half flies by, and you say, "Oh, all right, that was
No, it went
something.
by
That
very.
was okay." Yeah,
The last 15 minutes were a bit of a slog, but no,
yeah.
it got there pretty quickly, and I was fine with that. Because
Oh, I forgot to mention the big bad, the rehabber guy that's in charge. Um, those two ninja robots that kill each other because the little girl programs them to.
yes,
Uh, he's like, "You don't know what you've done. We're all gonna die now." It's like he had like a doomsday device, which is another classic trope. It's just like the self-destruct mechanism in the lab, like at the end of Bride of Frankenstein.
of
Like
course, it's always a self-destruct mechanism. Yes,
don't touch that lever.
or like the end of Predator with like the he's got the little thing on his arm. He starts,
Right.
or he has to
You
run.
gotta have a self-destruct device. But
Gotcha.
as as is a part of the plot of Doctor Strangelove, if you don't tell people that destroying the robot is going to blow up the building, then it's pointless. Like, why?
Yes. Yes, exactly. If
It's
I
like, don't you know what you've done? It's like, of course we don't. You didn't tell
How
us
could
that there
I?
was.
You didn't. I do think that's probably something missing would be a really good, really Britishy scenery chewing like, and you see, I can't be defeated because my robots have a self-destruct mechanism.
Right.
That would be that's missing. That was an opportunity that missed there of a nice big Britishy speech.
Yeah, we need a good bad guy giving us a ton of exposition right before he leaves the room because he's sure that his death machine is going to work or whatever.
Yes, of
Like
course.
they always got to have that, and we didn't really have that in this one. He's
We
like,
do.
"Oh, I forgot to tell you."
Yeah,
Now
doesn't
we're
work
gonna
that
die.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's definitely that. I do think that I was also it, I was kind of confused by like the just like all the rehabbers were just all head to toe beige. Like that's not
yeah,
threatening. Like when I think of like threatening color, like all black like suits going in or like blood red or
yeah.
some kind of cool color. No, they're just a bunch of they're like just a bunch of
Well,
beige outfits.
I guess it goes to that whole banality of evil thing.
Yeah, I was like brown shirts. Is that what this is
Yeah,
about? That's
they're
what I
beige
thought maybe.
shirts.
Yeah, the beige shirts like this. Like it's the J. Crew army. Oh no. Like I guess the Nazis were outfitted by Hugo Boss, and so
Well,
the
given like we got
the
some
beige
Seinfeld.
shirts.
Yeah, we got some Seinfeld actors in here, so this might be Jay Peterman's personal army
Yes,
of.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, the Nazis have Hugo Boss, and so the beige shirts of OCP have just J. Crew. The sensible, comfortable banality of evil. Like this isn't. This is action wear. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
it's
terrible.
practical banal evil
Practical
as well.
banality of evil. Like, yeah, you can go straight from clearing out Cadillac Heights to light dinner with your wife.
Yeah, or mowing the lawn, any of
Mowing your
those
lawn,
things.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's again, it I think too, like I think if you RoboCop 3, I'd say definitely. If you're watching it with friends, you'll have a great time.
oh yeah, I mean, I wish you and I watched it together because we
Oh
would
yeah.
have been laughing our asses off, I'm sure.
I know
But
Kelly and I had a great time watching it. We were laughing at it, chuckling at it. Lots of like, oh shit, look who it is! Like lots of that going on. It was a lot of fun.
I watched it
RoboCop,
all by myself because
RoboCop 2, not so much. RoboCop 2
yeah,
is not fun under any circumstances.
nobody wants to watch that.
No,
Nobody should watch that.
no, I
So I
should.
mean, that was kind of how I wrap these up. Is where does it stack within the franchise? And this franchise also extends to. I actually looked this up because we talked about it, but there were two different TV series of RoboCop already,
There were
and they're
two.
making a third one now.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that the other day. I know
and
that there's the
the movie they remade the movie as well. So I don't know if we include that in the franchise, but I like to end these with kind of where does it stack up?
well,
Where does it rate?
I think
You
that
know,
because I'm gonna just assume that this is it. There's three movies. We're just gonna leave
right?
it at that. I'm not gonna include the remake or the Canadian TV show, which I'm sure just
I
looks
never
like
watched any of it,
I'm
so
sure it
I
looks a
can't.
lot like MacGyver. Because
Yeah.
if it's Canadian, it looks like MacGyver. Um,
Mhm.
uh, it has the interesting because there's three of them. It has the interesting position of being both the second best and the second worst
Right.
RoboCop movie, and I think it's That's exactly what it is. It's the second best and the second worst.
It's a real middle of the road kind
It's
of
right
piece.
down the
Yeah,
middle, but it's not bad.
right.
I dreaded seeing it because I watched two first and it was just so bad I couldn't take it. But it was not bad. We enjoyed it. We ate our Chinese food and watched it and had a great time. And I would definitely
Mhm.
recommend seeing, if you're a fan of RoboCop, go see RoboCop 3. It won't hurt you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Go in with low expectations
No
and they
harm,
will be
believe me, no
exceeded.
harm done.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
harm done.
All right, excellent. So, in wrapping this up, where can people find you and keep up? I wanted to talk a little bit about your trading card series too. Uh,
Uh,
Tell me about this trading card set that you've been writing about and tweeting about and possibly blogging about in the near future.
well, the story starts many years ago, as all good stories do, when I was in high school, a junior, in fact. My friends and I used to go to this. Do you have Big Lots where you are?
Yeah, yep.
Well, we have Big Lots here, but they used to be called Pick and Save, and it
Okay.
was just this garbage, like, salvage store. We used to go there a lot to get like after Christmas, get all the Christmas cakes, like the little
Right.
Debbie Christmas cakes and like weird cereals that no one wanted. And we
Right.
go there and we just kind of hang out. Well, one day my friend, a good pal of mine, Jim, found these rock star cards there and bought some of them and brought them to school. And we were just having a good laugh at them. And then my other friends, Ryan and I, went there the next night and bought the rest of them. So we bought all these Rockstar cards, and they're all from like '91, so they're the very end of hair metal,
Yeah.
and there's a little bit of thrash metal thrown in, and then inexplicably Yes and the Grateful Dead. I don't understand that either, but
Yeah. And the Moody Blues.
and the Moody Blues, yeah, and just weird shit like that. But anyway, so uh, these cards were part of our like friend lore
Yeah.
forever. We talked about these things. They've been part of our little like, inside jokes forever. And um, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was bored as usual and look on eBay and I found a full unopened set of them for $25. So
Wow.
I bought them because that's what you do when you're bored and on eBay. And I have never been able to justify this purchase to anybody. um, and so they've been sitting in my office for a while, and I found them recently and was just looking at them and said, you know what, I need to justify this purchase, so I'm gonna start writing about these. And for me at least, I don't know about you, but like hair metal was like my first intro to music. um
Okay.
like I'm 45 now. So these bands like Poison and Warrant and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard, Motley Crue, these are the first cassettes I bought when I was a kid because I
Yeah.
didn't know any better. I turn on MTV, I'm 10 and like
Hmm.
or 9, and all I see is Motley Crue, and I don't know any better, and I think it sounds kind of cool. So I buy these cassettes and I get them for Christmas. And there's like a 1 to 2 year window where all I listened to was hair metal.
Yeah.
Um, then later on, I discovered like classic rock radio, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Black Sabbath, things like that. And then real metal came along, like Metallica and Megadeth. I got into that, and then grunge happened and just wiped the shit off the map. But I have an affection for this music. Not in a way that I like listening to it because I don't. It's terrible, but it was just such a formative part of my childhood, and my friends and I share this. We all like my friend's
Yeah.
first cassette was a Firehouse tape, the things like that. Like
Yeah.
this is like the weird part of our lives that we grew up in. And it's just a little thing. And then these cards kind of brought that back for us, and it's been something we can all chuckle at. But
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I find like, and I want to. The big part of this for me though is I've decided my end goal for this little thing I'm doing is to find someone who had something to do with these cards and talk
Yeah.
to them because they don't make any fucking sense.
They just say, "What the hell were you thinking?"
What the
And
hell were you thinking? What was the process? I've done a little internet sleuthing and found a couple of things about them, uh, but I'm going to try to find out more. So that's my end
yeah.
goal here, is to find somebody here. But on the whole, it's just gives me something to do every morning while I'm drinking my coffee, and it makes me laugh, and it makes
Yeah.
like 3 of my friends laugh. So that's good enough for now. But yeah, it's just something to do, and it gives me a chuckle every day. And I I'm discovering new things about myself and about the world of 1991 rock. I think that's the important thing. I've
That's a
discovered the
great
Dan. Yeah,
cultural artifact, you know.
I've discovered which I think might be the worst band I've ever heard in my life. So there we go.
Yeah.
I've
Which
become
one was that?
I've now become fascinated with this band called the Dan Reed Network, which I wrote about 2 days ago. And
Huh.
I decided that in order to better educate myself, every time I pull a Dan Reed Network card from the box, I'm going to listen to a Dan Reed Network album. And I
That
did
sounds
that.
like a Dan Reed Network to me sounds like a youth camp ministry
It does
kind
kind
of.
of, but I've been trying to. They're like a light funk rock band.
Huh.
Their first record sounds like a very, very like Prince in his sleep, kind of like if Prince had
Huh.
taken like a heavy narcotic,
So
and then
Prince on
like,
Ambien.
yeah, it's just really bad, and it's got like the 80s synth hits, like the synth orchestra
Yeah.
hits, and
Right.
like synth horns, and it's like lots of like bad like Loverman lyrics.
Does it have
Um,
real drums?
it sounds like it. It's hard to tell. It's so overproduced. It's terrible. But I'm just absolutely fascinated by this band and the lead singer, who on his first record packaged a poster of himself in the album. This is
There you
someone
go.
who's no one's ever heard of,
Yeah.
putting out their first album, and he puts a picture of himself in it. I find
Yeah.
that fascinating. I want to know more about this man. And I
Right.
kind of, the way I look at it, they're kind of like Maroon 5 of their era, like this
Hmm.
funky, shitty rock band with a singer with a very high opinion of himself. Um,
Okay.
so I'm determined to know more about the Dan Reed Network and who the hell made these cards. So if
Right.
anyone listening to this has any insight on who made the let's see, I have the cover right here. Uh, Rock Cards Series 1, 288 cards. I've done about 30, so I've got a long road ahead of me. I've really painted myself into a corner with this one. But yeah, that's my little thing I'm doing. And it's an exercise in making myself work every day, which is fun.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I mean, that's
it's
good. I've said this on other shows and things when I started trying to write nonfiction and about weird subjects that I like. I mean, my writing exercise was Twitter. I was like
yeah,
letting the character limit pare down my words so that I could be more concise about things. It's great as a writing exercise or even just something to keep you honest and keep you in the habit of it. You know.
yeah,
So
absolutely. And I
yeah.
mean, like I I I was very late to social media. Like I didn't have a Twitter or anything until
Mhm.
like maybe 4 years ago. Like I was very far behind. And
Yeah.
what brought me back into it was the weird stuff, the
Yeah.
UFOs and all that shit. Because I found out that all these people were there, and that's how you and I, first
Right.
connected. I think it was UFOs, maybe like Ted Sirios, and
Yeah.
Like Eddie Hazel. Like I think we were talking about like Eddie Hazel or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
so like yeah, that was like our little like cross paths there. So yeah, like I've never really had an audience of people to like write to. My
Right.
friends and I, we're laughing at each other's jokes for years and everything, but that's like 3 people. So that's the first time I've ever like tried to write for an audience or anything. Uh, so I'm just like, now that I have like all I do on Twitter now is post these stupid cards.
Yeah.
Occasionally say something about one of your tweets, and then like participate in the brew pool. Like
Yeah.
Jack
Jack
Brewer's
Brewers. Jack,
invite only football pool, which I exist solely to antagonize Tim Banal, which is fine,
okay.
which is
Yeah.
why we should all exist anyway. We should just be antagonizing Tim Banal. Who is
He
really
lives
fucking
for that.
he is really fucking good at this though, man. He is like the
Yeah.
best. He just smokes our asses every week. So
Yeah.
he earns it. But no, it's just been something to do for fun. And I finished grad school like 2 years ago, and my brain's been tapioca ever since. I can't think, I can't write, I can't read, because I just burned myself out in school. And so this has been like a process of kind of
Yeah.
putting myself back out there and trying to reactivate those parts of my brain.
Yeah. Work those muscles, you know.
Exactly.
So,
And I
and
haven't
they
done
are
that.
fun. I will just say to the listeners, they're really fun posts. Like, even if you don't care about hair metal, it doesn't matter. Just go read them, because like he makes like a lot of really fun comments. It's funny. He's a funny guy, as
Oh,
you've heard
thank
on
you.
the show tonight. So
I've and I'm
definitely check
trying.
him out.
I've made it a point to not be mean if I can help it. Like, I'm not trying to be mean here. I don't really.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
plenty of there. I mean, like
You
I say,
deserve the meanness for when it's really warranted.
yes, like,
Yeah,
I unironically like Journey. Like, I have no room
yeah,
to argue with anybody about what
right.
they like and listen to. So I'm
Yeah,
not gonna be like, dude, fucking Warrant sucks. Like, no, I find Warrant interesting. Okay, I'm gonna talk about that. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna reserve my hatred for Vince Neil as my number one target.
yeah.
He killed a man, and I'm not gonna let anyone forget that.
Right. Yeah.
And the song Radioactive by The Firm. That is my two most vitriolic posts so far have been about
Yeah.
Radioactive by The Firm, which is my least favorite song of all time, and Vince Neil, because he's a fucking
Okay.
murderer.
Yeah.
He's a fucking
That's
murderer. So there you go.
and those things are both fair. Yep.
Yes.
Fair to say.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be bitter or angry or just like pick on somebody. It's not about that.
Yeah.
There is genuine. I love rock and I love rock history and I love the whole thing. And it's like hair metal or not, it was a thing we liked, and I think that's worth exploring to some degree. So,
I think so too. Yeah.
well, thank you, sir.
People
And of
can find
course,
you on Twitter and Instagram doing this, right?
yes, I don't even know what my handles are here. Give me a second. I'll let you know. I am on Twitter. I am Blackwolf Oates on Twitter.
Yeah. At Black Wolf Oates. Yep.
Yeah, on Twitter, and I am on Instagram. I am Blackwolf _ John _ Oates
There you
on
go.
Instagram. And I'm
Yep.
actually I've had a Blue Sky account for like a year. I've never actually done anything with, so I think I'm gonna transfer those over to Blue Sky at some point as well,
Yeah.
and just kind of spread the word. And like I said, I really want to find someone who can give me any information on these cards. So I want to spread the word far and wide to try to find anybody in this world who can help me with these, because
Yeah.
it's just fascinated my friends and I for decades, and I just want to know more.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the AP Strange Show. Another fine third time's the charm addition to our catalog of data
And
on third movies in a franchise that we can draw from when we do the real science on this.
and I want to thank you for it's my first appearance on any podcast, so thank you for inviting me, and I'm
Of course, man.
absolutely honored to follow the great John Tenney.
Yeah.
So I am eagerly awaiting hearing about King Kong versus Godzilla.
It was a fun chat.
I'm
That was good.
very eager to hear it, and I'm eager to hear whatever else you're going to put out there, because I always enjoy your content. So please
Oh,
just
well, thanks very much.
release it,
Yeah.
give it to us. Feed our. You know what? I'm going to say it right
I'm
now.
gonna.
You're my nuke, my man. You're my nuke.
Uh,
I need it. I need
Aw,
the blue Hawaiian that is AP Strange in my
you are
veins.
you are literally too kind.
Oh,
Uh,
thank
all right, thank you so much for coming on the show,
you.
Black Wolf,
My pleasure.
and
My pleasure.